The snow fell like forgotten prayers that night, soft and steady, covering the city in a white silence that felt heavier than noise. At a dimly lit bus stop wrapped in flickering Christmas lights, a small boy stood shivering beside a tired woman, while a man in an expensive wool coat sat alone on a cold metal bench, staring at nothing. The boy's voice, thin and honest, drifted through the air as he spoke about how his mother said Santa must have forgotten them again, and somehow those simple words pierced deeper than any scream ever could, breaking open a loneliness the billionaire had spent a lifetime hiding behind money, glass towers, and silence. If this opening already makes you believe that kindness still matters and second chances are real, then please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because every heart watching tonight becomes part of this story. The man on the bench was named Alexander Reed, a name known across business magazines, stock markets, and luxury circles, but completely unknown to the child standing just a few feet away. Alexander had built an empire from nothing, rising from a childhood of hunger and neglect to become one of the wealthiest men in the country. Yet on this Christmas Eve, despite the chauffeur waiting blocks away and the penthouse overlooking the city prepared for a silent feast, he chose to sit alone at a bus stop, letting the cold remind him he was still capable of feeling something. His parents were gone, his marriage had ended years ago under the weight of ambition, and the one thing money could never buy had slipped through his fingers quietly: connection. Christmas had become a reminder of everything he had lost, not what he owned. Nearby stood Emily Carter, a single mother whose strength had been stretched thin by years of surviving instead of living. Her coat was worn at the elbows, her gloves mismatched, and her eyes constantly scanning the street as if the world might take something else from her if she blinked too long. Beside her was her son, Noah Carter, 7 years old, small for his age, with eyes too thoughtful for a child who had learned early that hope must be handled carefully. They were waiting for the last bus that would take them back to a tiny apartment where the heater barely worked and the refrigerator was almost empty. Christmas for them was not about gifts or trees, but about getting through the night without losing faith entirely. As the bus was delayed, time seemed to slow, stretching the moment between past and future. Noah shifted his weight from foot to foot, rubbing his hands together, watching snow gather on the sidewalk. He had seen the decorations in shop windows, the laughter of families passing by, and the warm glow of restaurants filled with people who belonged somewhere. He didn't ask for much, never did, but the quiet disappointment in his eyes carried the weight of many unspoken wishes. Emily noticed it too, and it hurt more than the cold ever could. She had promised herself she would never let her child feel forgotten, yet here they were again, waiting, hoping, surviving. Alexander listened without meaning to. He had learned to tune out the world, but that night, something refused to be ignored. The innocence in the boy's belief stirred memories he had buried deep, memories of sitting on cracked steps as a child, watching other kids unwrap presents through frosted windows, telling himself that someday he would matter enough to be noticed. He had kept that promise to himself in every way except the one that truly mattered. He mattered to the world, but not to anyone. The cold grew sharper, and the streetlights buzzed softly overhead. Alexander stood up, unsure why his feet moved before his mind agreed. He walked closer, not as a billionaire, not as a powerful man, but simply as someone who had once been forgotten too. He looked at Emily and Noah, really looked, and saw a reflection of the life he had escaped but never healed from. Emily felt his presence and instinctively pulled Noah closer, years of caution etched into her posture, but Alexander's eyes held no threat, only a quiet sadness that felt familiar. Minutes passed, heavy with unspoken emotion. The bus still hadn't come. Snow continued to fall. And in that suspended moment, something shifted. Alexander felt a warmth he hadn't known in decades, a strange pull toward doing something that couldn't be measured in profit or loss. He realized that all his wealth meant nothing if it couldn't change a moment like this, if it couldn't rewrite even one small story. He made a decision then, not loudly, not dramatically, but with a certainty that surprised him. He offered help, not as charity, but as humanity. Emily hesitated, pride and fear battling inside her, but exhaustion won. She didn't know this man's name, didn't know his status, only that his voice carried sincerity, and sometimes that was enough. They didn't go far, just to a nearby cafe still open, warm and glowing like a promise. For Noah, it felt like stepping into another world. For Emily, it felt like breathing after being underwater for too long. For Alexander, it felt like coming home to a part of himself he thought was gone forever. Inside, time softened. Hot chocolate warmed frozen hands. Food filled empty spaces, both physical and emotional. Noah's smile returned slowly, cautiously, like a sunrise after a long storm. Emily watched her son laugh, truly laugh, and tears burned behind her eyes. Alexander watched them both and felt something crack open inside his chest, a quiet, painful, beautiful release. He didn't talk about money, about business, about power. None of that mattered here. What mattered was presence. As the night deepened, Alexander learned about their lives in fragments, missed chances, long hours, silent sacrifices. He didn't pity them. He respected them. He saw strength where the world saw weakness. And in their resilience, he found a mirror for his own survival, stripped of ego and excess. Christmas, he realized, wasn't about being remembered by some distant myth, but about remembering each other. When the time came to part ways, the bus finally arriving with a tired sigh, Alexander felt a fear he hadn't expected, the fear of returning to emptiness. But something had changed. He made promises, not grand gestures, but real ones. Support. Stability. Presence. Not because he was rich, but because he was human. Emily didn't know how to thank him, words falling short, but Alexander knew gratitude wasn't the point. Healing was. The days that followed rewrote all of their lives. Emily found opportunities she had been denied before, doors opening not through favoritism but through belief. Noah found consistency, warmth, and the freedom to dream without fear. And Alexander found purpose beyond profit. He began to show up, not just for them, but for others like them. The bus stop became a symbol, not of waiting, but of meeting. Not of being forgotten, but of being seen. Years later, on another snowy Christmas Eve, Alexander stood by a window watching the city glow. Laughter filled the room behind him. Noah, taller now, full of confidence, was helping decorate the tree. Emily stood nearby, stronger, lighter, her smile no longer burdened by constant worry. Alexander felt something settle inside him at last. Peace. The kind that money never bought, the kind earned through connection. Before this story ends, we ask you from the heart, please comment and share what this story made you feel, because your words keep stories like this alive and remind others they are not alone. And now, as the snow continues to fall somewhere in the world, if this story touched your heart even a little, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope tonight, and subscribe to the channel, because every act of kindness, no matter how small, has the power to change a life, just like one forgotten Christmas at a lonely bus stop changed everything.